Hey folks, it is the Nutty Knife Guy with their Wednesday rant. We'll call it that for now. Just a real quick, and you're crooked. You're crooked the other way. Just a real quick one on the Wednesdays about secondary locks on knives. I don't like them. Much like manual safeties on modern striker-fired semi-automatic pistols, I think they're unnecessary and a general pain in the butt. Some are better than others, but what I'm talking about is on a locking knife. If you have like this Gerber fast draw here, this is the safety on here is something about it I really dislike intensely. You've got this extra manual safety right here that and this one, it's designed to keep the blade closed. You click this down and the blade won't open because it's insisting on it doesn't come open in your pocket. And what I don't like using it, but what I have found is since it disengages this way, when I'm bringing it out of my pocket, it sometimes catches and I'm sitting there trying to open my knife and I can't open my knife. And that's annoying. Now another Gerber, I reviewed this one on Sunday and I really like it. Has a manual safety intended to keep it from going closed. Now on both of these it's unnecessary. That safety. Now this one is, like I said, more to keep it from coming open. But in this one, the safety is not on. As you can see, and unnecessary. I have another one here. This is probably, if you have to have a safety, this is I think the best designed secondary safety. I don't even know if you can see it. I have not reviewed this. This is a Reek. Let's see. Is it on here? Yeah, this is a Reek P138B for black. Again, this safety is not engaged, and it holds fine. Now this safety is here, and you see where this, I don't know, let's see, can you see that? Right there, it's hard to see. No, here. And it moves back, well, forward to engage the, and of all of them, I dislike this one the least, simply because it's you can forget it's there, and it's not going to be engaged accidentally. Then I've got a Smith & Wesson karambit-like thingy here. This is the Old Eyes again. Oh, it's an M&P karambit doodad anyway. The number on it is 11-48004-0521. Generally, I like this knife. Again, yeah, the lockup's good. Watch it fail now. So the safety is unnecessary, and now I have this one configured for left-handed because again I do carry a firearm on a daily basis, and I have a failure in situational awareness, or there's more than one guy. I wind up having to wrestling over my gun, hold on to the gun with the strong hand, and I'll use this in my weak hand to stab and slash the guy that's trying to take my gun away from me, to encourage him to stop doing that. Now this has the kind of a Gerber wave rope thingy here. And you want to, okay, here. You want to see that actually the safety came partially on and it was hard to close it. And if you want to open it, you snag this on your pocket and you deploy it. Now I have found that occasionally, and I knew I was going to, thought I was going to do a full review of this knife, and it looks like I'm not going to. So I have not disabled the safety yet, but I'm going to disable the safety. I'm probably just going to take a drop of super glue and glue it, and glue it to the off position. Because if, God forbid, I get into a situation where I'm fighting over the Bang Bang toy, and I whip this out, and it doesn't whip out because the safety's on. And even if you're not deploying it for a situation like that, safeties can just be a pain in the butt, and I don't think they're unnecessary. Let's take this one. Let's say you're just fishing and you're in your bass boat and you got a hell of a snag, right? And you want to hold up the snag line with one hand and get your pocket knife out of your pocket with the other so you can cut that snag that you have to hold up, right? And your safety's on it. Trying to get them on. They're trying. Aggravating. And I've seen some people that can get so aggravated by stuff like that, they get like really animated and wind up falling off the boat. I haven't actually seen them fall off the boat, but they can get really aggravated for stuff like that. Now, is it a big deal to do that? Not really, unless you forget to do that and you're trying something, like, cutting out a snag, or maybe doing some kind of roadside auto repair or whatever. And it's raining and it's cold and you're in a hurry and you wind up having to dig around with this thing. These two are really, but especially these ones that are mounted on the side, that can be very easily engaged accidentally. The one on the Gerber Mall here is better. That's another one that's designed to keep it closed. And this one you actually have to work to get set. I mean, and it's out of the way. This one isn't too bad. You can kind of forget it's there. And as I said, this one, I don't even know if you guys can see it. Maybe if I can turn it this way. I guess you can see it there. But there's a little jimping right alongside the blade here that can be manipulated this way. And that's very unobtrusive. If you're going to have a secondary safety on a folder, this is the way to do it. And of course, I've got others. I've got the famous cold steel Luzon, infamous on this channel for failing, even with the lock engaged. And the same thing with the Crawford, cold steel Crawford Model 1, which I didn't dig out of my collection for this. I thought I had enough examples. But my thing is this: whether they work or not, I think they're unnecessary, and there's something extra to go wrong. Now, none of these are broken, but if a folding knife is designed well, a locking folding knife, not all of them have locking. I've got this cold steel kudu here, slip joint. Doesn't have a lock. I know it doesn't have a lock, so it's not a big deal. But my thing is, if a folding knife is well designed and well put together, well made, then you don't need any kind of a locking mechanism. Whether it's designed from keeping it coming open in your pocket, from keeping it from coming open into your pocket, or keeping it from going closed. Because chances are, even if you have it, I don't have any like scientific studies to back this up, but I'm thinking I'll bet you that 90% of the people that have knives with these locks on it, when they open it up, they never put them on. They never turn it on. Unless they think they're doing something that's really, really hard on the knife and hard on the lock. And if you need to put a lock on to do that with a knife, it's probably not safe to do that with that knife in any case. So, you know, if you're worried about a knife coming open in your pocket, my advice to you is not to have any kind of assisted opener or automatic, and get a manual. And if you have a manual, test it. You know, before you carry it, wiggle it around, see if it comes open easily, and maybe because a lot of the times, even if it does, you tighten the pivot screw up a little bit, problem solved. But especially if a design has to rely, especially if a design has to rely on a lock to keep it closed or to keep it open, then it's probably poorly designed. You know, a good folder. Let me get one out here that doesn't have a lock. Okay, this is a inexpensive Smith & Wesson model 110062, fancy name. This is a folder, just a flipper. This is in my EDC rotation, that's why it's here by my desk. Alright, it'll come open pretty easily, but it's not like super easy to come open. I don't worry about this coming open when it's clipped in my pocket. Right, so it's well designed. It doesn't have a secondary lock, doesn't need one. And if you have a secondary lock, it's still a folding knife. And that pivot where it folds, this pivot joint, is still going to be weak. And a little extra pin on there might keep the liner from sliding over. But really, if you're doing that hard of a task with a folding knife, that little bit is not going to make it that much safer to use. It might make you feel better, but as I said, if you're one of these things where you think, oh yeah, I better make sure I put this safety on before I try to chop down a tree, you know, a mighty oak, with my little pocket knife here because my life depends on it now. I mean, if it's just not going to make that much difference. It's not going to make that knife more capable of performing a task that's beyond that knife's design. Best way I could do it. Any kind of manual safety, in my opinion, is largely, one, a gimmick to sell just a gimmick by the knife company, and two, it's more for the user's sense of security, a false sense of security, than it is of any real practical value. If the knife is designed well, and if it's built with any kind of quality, a secondary safety of any kind is pretty useless. It probably adds a little bit of cost to the knife for no real value. You know, so if you get a folder, I mean, you know, just do the basic things. Do the spine whack like I just did. Wiggle it, right? If you barely touch a flipper and it just pops right open, whether it's an assisted opening or not, it's probably too loose, and it might come in and open your pocket. Test the pivot screw. Check the pivot screw. Tighten it down a little bit. I have a Bocker folder around here somewhere that I had forever that I stopped carrying because it did tend to come open in my pocket, and when I tightened the pivot screw down, it wouldn't hold that tightness. it would always work itself loose. Shame, because it was a really nice knife otherwise. Alright, but that was, in my opinion, a build deficiency in the factory. That, an extra safety lock probably wouldn't have mattered much, because if the knife is getting loose, the scales are coming further apart, and that's going to loosen the tolerances on the lock up enough in the space that it's going to fail no matter what, eventually, safety or not. So, I mean, they are gimmicks. These secondary safeties on knives are gimmicks. They really don't, in my opinion, they really don't accomplish anything. So if you get a folder, remember that whatever you're doing, you're still basically doing a broken knife. Just think of a folder as a broken flex blade. Right? This part is always going to be weak. Right? It's always going to be weaker than a fixed blade. You carry these around because they're handier. But no matter how they make them, no matter what kind of locking mechanism they use, no matter what kind of secondary safety they put on it, it's still a folding knife. It's still going to be inherently weaker than a fixed blade, and there's no way around that. So I would encourage people just to get a good quality folding knife. A liner lock, an axis lock, a triad lock, a wing ding and a wing ding, a what lock. And I will say spend a little money on it, even though I've got some, $15, $10 Tac Force knives whose lock I've tested repeatedly, and it's fine, and they haven't come open in my pocket. But as a rule, you spend something around $20-25, which is not a lot. I mean, there are knives out there that are way more expensive than that. But like this one, $20, maybe not even that. And it doesn't come open in the pocket. The lock hole's on a spine whack test. So for the things that you should be doing with a folding knife, this will be fine. But you have to remember that there's always going to be that weak point at the joint. Always with a folding knife. So it pays you when you buy a knife. The first thing you should do, get the spine whack test. You don't have to go Captain Caveman, but just see if it takes a little bit of shock, and see how the action is. Now with a little flip here when I'm holding up, this is one of the things that I use, and it's not a steadfast rule. This is what I found useful. If you hold it straight up and you hit the flipper with a little bit of force, and it winds up about half locked, then that's probably stiff enough to keep it from coming open in your pocket. And of course you can just jiggle it like this. If this isn't going to open it, it's not going to jiggle loose. And if it'll do that, then when you're opening it and not come. Now this is assisted opening, so it doesn't work. Let's try the reek. Does that work? I never tried that with the reek. But if you do that, and see it sticks halfway. Now when I hit it hard enough, that this one has a really smooth. These reeks have really great actions. This will come up, but if I can get it so I can pop it and it won't deploy completely, and I can do this, and unless I snap it up there, and again this one is like a really smooth action, but I can do this. And so now I did this like that by a force of habit, but if you can just jiggle it up and down and you're not making any kind of a snapping thing, it's going to be fine. Right? So you just do that, and then you're going to be fine, and it's going to be safe. Assisted openers, and these extra safeties, I just don't buy it. I just don't get it. Now these, obviously I bought these. They're not I'm not going to buy the knife because of it. But if at all possible, I just ignore them. Like this one, it's so easy to ignore. and because of that, because you can like forget it's there, you know, that's a big plus for me. That's why this is my favorite secondary safety, because it's completely ignorable. So there it is. I'm going to stop ranting now. And I've probably repeated myself over and over again, but this is just something that kind of bothers me. Especially on this one, because this one is basically let go of my gun. You know, this is a thug let go of my gun knife. And you have to be able to get it out. And with this one, because, I mean, it's a karambit, seriously, they expect you to have this engaged in your pocket, like so. Hang on. They expect you to have it engaged in your pocket, like so. Right? Bring it with the safety on. Alright. So you're coming up out of your pocket. Now, the safety's on, so this thing's not coming open. You grab this on your pocket, and what do? All you do is rip your pocket out, because you're trying frantically to get this out so you can use it as a firearms retention knife. And it's like, oh shit, my safety's on, my knife doesn't come open. And while you're trying to hang on to your gun, maybe there's one guy, maybe there's more, pulling your gun away. You're punching everything, and you're trying to get this out and say, get off me. Right? And this thing is on. And seriously, when you're trying to deploy it, where you're actually going to do this fine motor skill. All right, I can't actuate this. I can't even actuate it with like that very easily. And you're going to find this button under that kind of stress. No, I don't use this thing, and now that I have done my video on it, it's going to get glued in the off position. Or removed entirely. If I can remove it entirely without really taking the guts of the knife apart, I'm going to. This is one of these things that it has to come open reliably and quickly. Now this one is more of a sport thing, but like I said, just things like pulling up a snag out of the water and cutting it loose, or whatever. I know farmers who get livestock or dogs or something like, or have dogs where they get loose and their leash is caught in a fence or wound up, or a farmer I've seen have to use pocket knives when they didn't have anything else handy to cut cattle out of wire, and that will ruin any knife. But you're probably going to have to grab hold of that wire and pull it with one hand and open your knife with another. Just any kind of situation like that. This is just not something you want to do, and you'll probably forget to use it anyway, let's face it. Okay. I have done, I kept repeating the same points over and over again. I don't script these, and sometimes I don't even really plan for them very well. But there it is. That's the way these through the week ones are going to be, folks. With that, I bid you to draw your knives only in just purpose, sheathe them only with honor, and to remember that without knives, life would be dull and pointless. Please like, share, and subscribe. Feed the almighty YouTube algorithm. It's been kind of messing with me a bit lately. I'll tune in one day, 1 hour, and I'll have 450 subscribers, and then I'll have 449, and then I'll have 446, and then I'll have 452. So always check to make sure that the algorithm isn't screwing with me and with you. Let me know what you think about the whole idea of secondary safeties on folders. Myself, I don't like them. Made that clear. But there's somebody, hey, maybe you swear by them. Maybe you had a bad experience with a knife coming open in your pocket. But there it is. And with that, I bid you goodbye.